I'll be talking about hair transplantation in a scar tissue. Scar formation can happen on the face and scalp, and it can have primary or secondary reasons. In primary reasons, there are some skin conditions, dermatological conditions which can lead to scar formation and consequent hair loss. Whereas the secondary causes include like post-traumatic, post-injury, post-radiation, post-burn scars. In the post-surgical category, we will include the FUT scar, which occurs after the FUT strip surgery, or if somebody had a brain surgery, they can have a linear scar on the scalp. In this category, scars due to scalp reduction surgeries are also included. A scar is a fibrous tissue which has replaced that area of injury. That scar is usually very thin or thick sometimes, and it has less vascularity. So there is an issue in ensuring the survival of the grafts if we do a transplant inside a scar tissue. So as a hair transplant surgeon, we purposely keep the density of the grafts lesser than the normal density. Normally we keep a density of 40 to 45 grafts per square centimeter, whereas in scar we tend to keep it lesser, maybe 20 to 25. So the other issue is the depth. Sometimes if we have a very thick scar, then sometimes even if we plant, the depth of the scar is very less vascular and the graft uptake may not be that good. So one thing is we keep the density inside the scar lesser. The other thing that we do is, in a linear scar, we plant the edges of the scar in a dense manner, so that in the edges where the tissue is normal, graft uptake is better, the growth is good, and it hides the scar well. When we do a hair transplant in a FUT scar, we have to be very careful in planning the donor extraction. As it is, the patient has androgenetic alopecia and he has done a strip surgery in the past, so his scalp donor is already exhausted. It's a finite donor bank that he has throughout his life. So sometimes we use scalp grafts if the area is very prominent and the scar is very prominent, but mostly we tend to use the body hair to cover that scar. So among the body hair, our number one preference is usually the beard, and we use beard grafts along with scalp micropigmentation to hide that scar. If a person has done only one FUT surgery, then usually the scar is not thick. However, if they have done multiple strip surgeries, then they tend to have thick scars. Usually the scars are not hypertrophic, and we have seen good results by hair transplantation in FUT scar. Now I'll be talking about scars on the face. The eyebrow, eyelashes, beard and mustache area, these are cosmetically important areas, and sometimes due to some traumatic cause or sometimes due to some surgical procedure, they can have some scars in these areas, and if we have scarring in these areas, the hair stops growing in these regions. So hair transplantation is an effective way to regrow the hair in those scars and to hide those scars to a great extent. We have done hair transplantation in all these areas and we have achieved good results. After an injury or a surgery, we should wait for a period of at least 6 months to allow the scar remodeling to happen, because there is some scar remodeling and scar reduction procedure which the body does on the scar itself. So the scar tends to improve spontaneously in the initial 6 to 8 months. So we should wait for that period and not jump for a surgery straight away. And when we are doing the surgery in those scars, we have to pay attention to the relaxed skin tension lines, because these relaxed skin tension lines are present all over the face, and usually the scar which is along that RSTL is usually thin and easy to correct, rather than those scars which are against the RSTL. And when we are doing the transplant, we have to give extra importance to the direction of the hair. For example, in eyebrows, in the central part, the hair are in the crisscross fashion, so we have to give the direction of transplanted hair same direction as that of the native eyebrow hair. Also, the graft selection when it comes to hair thickness, hair diameter is also very important. In eyebrow, we have to use very thin pigmented, very lightly pigmented hair for the eyebrow. Same goes for the eyelashes. We have have to take hair from the back side of the head if we are doing a reconstruction of an eyelash, and the direction and the curl is very important when it comes to the eyelash. When it comes to hair restoration, the beard and mustache area, we have to follow the direction of the existing beard hair. So if the direction matches with the existing hair, then usually the transplant of results are so good that it becomes imperceptible and it hides the scar very well. So now coming to the scenario of scarring alopecia due to primary dermatological conditions like lichen planopilaris, pseudopelade of Brock, and frontal fibrosing alopecia. These conditions are though not very common, but if they occur, they lead to permanent scarring and permanent hair loss. So it's very important that whenever they start, the person should consult the dermatologist on an immediate basis, because it's very difficult to regrow those hairs. Like, it's impossible to regrow the hair in these regions, but it is very possible to control the spread of this disease. And then these people, they become panicky and they want to do a hair transplant straight away in these patches. So as hair transplant surgeons, we are very careful, because if we do a surgery in an active case or a progressive patient of these conditions, then there is a risk that surgery might lead to acceleration of the disease process, and they may lose the transplanted hair also, as well as the baldness might progress even more. So one should do a hair transplant in these people in a very guarded manner. First of all, hair transplant should only be done when the disease progression has stopped for a minimum of at least 5 years. This leads to the disease ending in a that's called a burnt out stage, and it is very important to document that yes, it has already been stabilized, because if we are not documenting it, person might feel that it has stopped progressing and they may falsely report that it is stable. But how do we actually ensure that it is really stable? By looking at previous pictures, comparing them with the today's picture. So we should have pictures 6 months before, 1 year before, only then we can be assured that yes, it is stable. And then when we have this stable case, we should do a test grafting first. We should do a square area of transplant in which we transplant 100 or 200 grafts at test grafts, and once we see that those test grafts are taken up well and they are growing well, then we should go for a full-fledged hair transplant in those regions. And when we do transplant, again we are very careful that we don't give very high density. We produce illusion of filling in that region, illusion of density in that region by doing a sparse transplant. The doctor, hair transplant surgeon, should also prescribe some immunomodulating medicines to prevent the progression of disease due to the surgery, because as I said, the surgical trauma per se is an aggravating factor for this disease to enhance.